Why are you so angry about what these guys are doing?
Well, firstly, we're not doing anything new and we're not doing anything alone. We've had huge support from across the dwarfism community for our protests. Little People of America, the man on TV mentioned about the difference between America and here. Well, Little People of America condemned dwarf wrestling. In fact, they published campaign materials against it. And last night, they endorsed our position. We published a statement on our Facebook and Twitter. We believe that dwarf wrestling is demeaning and disempowering. It reduces disability to a spectacle. It encourages people in bars and casinos to laugh at us. And it's based on our disability in the same way it was in the sideshows and freak shows.
All right, Derec?
I don't think that's true. I think as a little person or as a dwarf, I should have every opportunity that anybody else has. And if an average-sized person can wrestle, then a dwarf should be able to wrestle.
And what I would say about this, that we have the National Dwarf Games, there's the World Dwarf Games. These are serious competitions like the Paralympics or the Olympics. You have wrestlers who wrestle competitively who are dwarfs, but you also have wrestlers who are, normal wrestlers, if you like, who are, not dwarfs, who do both types. They do sporting wrestling and they do entertainment wrestling. What is the difference between dwarfs who take part in the World Dwarf Games, that's serious wrestling, and those who take part, like Derec, in entertainment wrestling?
Well, I don't know if there is wrestling in the Dwarf Sports Association. In fact, Dwarf Sports Association UK issued a statement recently saying that they disagree with events that harm the well-being of our community. There's a big difference between average height wrestling and dwarf wrestling. Dwarf wrestling is marketed on our disability. When you see average height wrestling, that doesn't then affect how you see average height people.
But when you see
dwarf wrestling, that affects how you see people with dwarfism.
You could say that about even with the women wrestlers. Like when they say you're selling their bodies, I mean, you could say that about any certain any certain group of people.
Yeah, that you're marketing it on that particular characteristic. It does remind me, Eugene, of the argument, for instance, about grid girls, that you're saying, some women are saying to that group of women, actually, you're exploiting something about being a woman to earn your money, and it actually demeans other women. But how is this different?
That reinforces a stereotype that the rest of us then have to battle. This is the choice of a few then affects the ability of the many to enact their choice. We have to fight these stereotypes. It's 2018. We need more Eddie Simmons and fewer Millie Hogans.
I don't understand how that affects your ability to decide what you want in life.
But if these guys are earning a good living, right? You make good money.
Yes,
right?
we do.
You tour America without apparently much of kickback from people. I mean, people accept it as what it is, entertainment.
Definitely.
It does seem a bit odd to me that they can't exercise their right as a dwarf to do this in the name of entertainment, given that, as I think I used the wrong phrase, normal height, but what would you say, average height?
Average height.
Average height people do both, and nobody seems to mind that they do wrestling as a sport and wrestling as entertainment. Well, I don't understand why that can't apply to dwarfs.
Let me take your point there. You said that there's no kickback in America. That's not true. Little People of America condemned dwarf wrestling. They published campaign materials for people to protest against it. So that's not true. In terms of average height wrestling versus dwarf wrestling, as I've said, average height wrestling doesn't affect how people see average height people. Dwarf wrestling does affect how people see people.
So we should worry about what other people are going to think about us. Then what should we do? What is loud? At what point are we allowed to draw the line? I believe that if it's not degrading me and not literally making fun of me, and I feel that I am not being degraded, that I'm taken seriously, and that at the end of the day, I'm happy with what I do and I'm not physically or mentally hurting anybody, it should be okay.
But there are so many ways.
That's a good argument,
there are so many ways to earn a living these days. It's 2018.
Yeah, but
so you say I can't earn it the way I want?
With respect to you, who are you to listen to what he just said and say that is not his right to make that choice? If he was being forced to do this, right? I get how in the early days of circuses that dwarfs were used in, I think, a very degrading manner, right? And it's absolutely right that we've moved on. But when I talk to Derec here, he seems to be thoroughly enjoying what he does. He doesn't feel remotely degraded. He's earning a good living. He's entertaining people. I don't get why you feel you have the right to tell him he shouldn't be doing it.
Like I say, it's not just me. No. There is a huge amount of support. of course there is a choice.
No, but I'm asking you what your objection really
and I'm
is.
trying to answer your question. Of course there is a choice, but the choice of the few affects the ability of the many to lead lives we value. This is what stereotypes...
How does what he does impact on your life?
Well,
Seriously.
Because it reinforces a stereotype.
Yeah.
And a stereotype
What is that? The dwarf can't be entertaining?
That dwarves belong in entertainment based on our bodies. That is a stereotype.
So no dwarf can be involved in anything that is entertainment, because actually that may reinforce the stereotype you don't like.
If entertainment then affects the rest of our ability to live lives we value, to choose our own self-image and project that...
But he's not telling you how to lead your life.
Taken seriously.
Only one of you is telling the other how to lead their lives.
Because
Derek, you've got no issues, presumably, with how Eugene leads his life.
No, I do not.
Presumably you respect his opinion, right?
I do.
So he doesn't have a problem with anything you're doing or saying in your life. He has a problem with what you're saying about what he's doing and his choices.
That's because I'm not perpetuating a stereotype that affects the rest of us.
Eugene, can I ask, is there evidence that what the Dwarfanators are doing does perpetuate a stereotype? Or is there a bigger problem with the way that people with restricted growth are treated, which actually is just crystallised in this issue?
Well, surely the two issues come together. So studies of people with dwarfism show that nearly 80% of us have experienced verbal abuse. Nearly a third of us have been touched by strangers.
12%, everybody experiences abuse in one way or another. People have their own struggles.
If you have this event in casinos and bars, are those numbers going to go up?
Do you think it encourages violence towards people?
I think it encourages the possibility of it.
All wrestling could then. Any wrestling could.
You could say that about any physical sport.
I mean, there's MMA, and they really beat the crud out of each other.
Let me ask you, Derek, let me ask you this. Do you feel ever, yourself, if you're being brutally honest, do you feel that some people come and watch you to laugh at you rather than be entertained by you?
They might have come there before not knowing what the show was like, but I know when they leave, they are amazed. And if you would like to come to our show, we would love to have you.
Would you do that, Eugene?
I wouldn't feel safe.
You wouldn't feel safe?
I wouldn't feel safe in that environment. With people laughing...
Would you not be better informed, though, to actually go and watch?
How do you know that people laugh?
I've watched their videos. I've read all the information on their website.
Have you been to a show where you've actually been able to feel what the audience is feeling?
No, but nobody wants to encourage you to go if you feel like you wouldn't be safe.
Erin Pritchard...
But if you can't opinionate it, if you're not going to see it, say, I don't like that.
A lady with dwarfism recently published an article saying she feels safer now that these events have been cancelled. There are plenty of people who don't feel safe by the way our disability is presented in these events.
We've got to leave it there. It's a really interesting debate. You know, I completely respect your opinions about this. They're obviously very heartfelt. But actually, I have to say, if Derek's enjoying it and getting paid good money for it and doesn't feel that he's being objectified or degraded in any way, I say keep going. Why not? Why shouldn't you be able to do that?
Anybody should do whatever they want, as long as it's not hurting anybody else.
And that's the issue.
That is the issue.
Eugene, Derek, it's lovely to talk to you both this morning. Thank you so much.